Welcome back to my channel, artists. Today we'll be making a dragon eye stamp art. Step number 1, use observation for your drawing. If you have been in my classroom before, we have already practiced this. Remember, observation is that slow drawing where you're paying attention to every single detail. You need to make sure that you are looking closely and really paying attention to every single detail that you see. The more you look, the better your drawing will be. Also, the slower that you draw, the better your drawing will be. Here I'm drawing a little faster actually because I have sped up the video, not because I'm drawing quickly. I know I have to take my time and go slow. Also, notice how large I'm drawing. You want to see if you can get your dragon eye to fill the page as much as you can. The larger your eye, the more interesting your drawing will be. When you finish your drawing, you are ready for step number 2, to trace with a Sharpie. As you trace with a Sharpie, pay attention, make sure that you are tracing your lines the very best that you can. If you go a little too fast and a little too sloppy, you will have to stop and erase any of the pencil lines that show up. So take your time and make sure that it looks good. As soon as you are finished with your drawing, you need to create a block. To create a block today for step 3, we're going to cut and glue a block. So you'll notice here that I'm going to take some foam. You can use cardboard, really a lot of different things, but foam is nice because it's really easy for cutting and drawing. I wanted to make sure that my scale was really large, so I drew it at least the size of my block, and I'm going to cut it out. Once I have cut it, I'm going to glue it to a small piece of cardboard. If you're in the classroom, I'll be providing cardboard. Otherwise, just take the top of an Amazon box and just cut a square, and you're going to want to glue your shape of your scale to that square. You want to make sure that you have time for this to dry overnight before you go on and use it as a stamp. You'll also see here that I'm going to take a piece of tape to make it a little bit more simple. I'm going to take that tape that you see and I'm going to bend it in half to create kind of like a handle and then stick the parts on the back. That is optional whether you're in the classroom or at home making a stamp. Step number 4 is I'm ready to cut and glue my eye. When I'm cutting, I'm going to take my scissors. I'm not going to cut on the black line. I'm actually going to cut close to my black line. I have found that when I cut close to my black line, it actually makes it more interesting because it gives a little bit of space around the eye and I can see my Sharpie line detail. So cut close to the eye, but not right on that black line. And you are ready for step number 5, painting the eye. I actually did this in kind of not the best order. I painted first and glued later. If you're at home or at the classroom, if you want to do this in the opposite order, I would recommend it. Either way, Find some fun color paints and paint a couple of the areas of your eye. You don't have to paint the entire eye in, just paint a couple of colors. You do want to pick colors that are analogous or next to each other in the color wheel. If you're in the classroom, again, I'll be providing you only those color options. The reason that we do this is that you want to make sure that if your colors mix, that they're not going to make anything gross or messy. I also you can, if you want, when you're making analogous colors, you can mix them. You can use the same paintbrush if you'd like, as long as you start with the lightest color, then you're not gonna have to worry about anything making a mess on your artwork. Either way, go ahead and paint a few areas with some color and leave some light areas in your eye. As I'm painting, you'll notice here that I'm actually going to add some black. I add some black for the center of the eye, that pupil. I think that's a fun area to have black, but honestly, if you want to add black, just make sure that you add it to one small area to keep it a little interesting and add a little bit of contrast to some brighter colors and lighter colors in your work. Step number 6, glue it to a background. So because my paint was wet here, I had to put the glue on the black paper. Obviously, that's not the best way to use glue. A better way to use glue is to put it on the smallest piece of paper, which would have been my eye. You'll want to do that only if your eye is dry. Either way, go ahead and glue it to a background. I chose to do black for this artwork. If you're at home, you might want to choose a fun color, maybe a color that you painted in the eye would work as well. And we are ready for my favorite step, stamping the scales. So this is step number 7. When you stamp the scales, you're going to take your block, it must be dry for this, and add some paint to it. For mine, I painted it with a lighter color first because I was planning on using the same stamp with more than one color. Of course, you want to start with that lighter color. When you paint, you're going to fill the entire shape with paint. Don't put too much in. If you put too much in, you can see how some of my scales have a little bit of like paint coming out the edges. That happens when we use a little bit too much. Go ahead and stamp all the way around it. If you're paying really close attention, you'll even notice that on my stamp, I drew a little arrow pointing to the top so that as I stamp, I know exactly which direction is up for my scale and which direction is down for my scale. When you have finished using one color, you're welcome to use a second color. For your stamp, just make sure you're going from light to dark as you change colors. Also make sure that your colors are analogous or next to each other in the color wheel so that if they mix a little, it doesn't really matter and it's not going to make anything mud or gross on your artwork. I hope you have enjoyed making a stamped artwork with us today. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel to keep up to date on all the fun and fantastic things that we are doing in the art classroom. What will you create?